Hello, everyone.
I'm here saying hello, can you hear me? And then I realized I had myself on mute.
Hi, Fred.
How's it going?
It's going. Ah, it's Tuesday. We're halfway there.
Tuesday's the new Tuesday's the new halfway.
At this
That's
point,
optimism right there.
I'll take it at this point.
You're like, I'll take 40% of the week. That's okay. That's good.
Right.
Hey everybody,
Hey, good evening, Warren.
how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Can't complain.
I hear you.
Did someone just knock to get into the meeting?
Oh, Lord.
It wasn't. They can't get in because it wasn't the secret knock though.
Yeah, right.
Not the secret knock.
No waiting room, kids. No one's in the waiting room.
Who we got?
It's found a space for to take their pictures on Saturday.
Where?
We did. Where did we?
I don't know. The PTA president found a spot for them.
Good.
Yeah, it was a senior class,
How many people?
75.
Oh, that has to be outside.
So you're right. So whoever is doing the favor for them is doing them a huge favor.
Yep. I've seen a number of senior class or the class pictures being taken in Prospect Park.
Yeah.
Which is a good idea.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking Prospect Park or BDG might have been a nice spot. They have
No, exactly.
really
Like
nice places too, so.
by the fountain with the museum and that stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen a number of people.
Well,
Okay.
it worked
but I'm
itself
glad
out.
that
I'm happy.
Yeah.
T.
Hold on, folks. BRB. Hi, Debbie. See, Miss Timothy is here.
Good.
Miss Timothy, Miss Watson. Hi, Miss Watson, Lord. Miss Boyd is here.
How you doing?
Hi, Miss Hilton.
Hello. Oh, Primo's coming in.
Hi, Fred.
Hi, Alicia. How you doing?
Seeing you. Yeah, I missed the last couple of meetings. Oh. But I'm back.
Ta-da.
Anyway.
Always welcome. Always welcome.
I hope you guys are had a good summer and
Hey, Primo. Hey, Alejandra.
Hey, good to see you.
Yes,
good to see you, Fred, Alicia, everybody.
Hey, Primo. How are you?
Hey, Warren. Doing well.
Hey, I have to tell you your activity on the different sites like Instagram and stuff is just excellent.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank you for that.
Appreciate it. We're trying, we got to do it for the young people. We got to be on the social media.
No, it's good. It's good.
Right.
Got to speak their language.
Exactly.
So Josh Pierre, candidate for.
Oh, didn't know that speaker was on. Oh, geez. Oh, and my speaker.
Mia, I'm not sure I heard. Is Alejandra on the line as well?
Yes, she's here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Alejandra.
We're here. We're here.
I'm actually on my tablet, so I can't see people, so I have to keep scrolling over to see if I can find people.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All right, we're just going to give it a couple more minutes, and then we will begin. Well, actually,
Yes, sir.
see, Warren, I see you. Debbie, I saw you. Alejandra, I saw you.
Mm-hmm.
I know Fran said she's not going to be able to make it this evening.
Yeah.
I don't believe Ms. Williams will be able to make it.
Yeah. Did anybody touch base with her in the last 2 days?
I have not. I'll actually have to give her a call.
I
Yeah.
have not either.
I did call yesterday and I got a busy signal and then I didn't try back, so I feel bad. I'm gonna call tomorrow.
Okay. And Mia, have you heard from Vivia?
No, I have not. It's like me to reach out?
If you could just text her, just make sure she's able to make it.
Sure.
Okay, Mia, do you have any response?
Not as of yet.
Okay, well, you know what? I definitely want to make sure we move on, and I believe we have a quorum right now. The 4 executive committee members, yes, I think we have a quorum. All right, so I think we will begin. I'm now calling the meeting to order. Time is now 7:06. I want to thank everyone for being present this evening for our executive committee meeting of the month of October 2020. Pardon me. All right. Now, I didn't put it on here. I do see a couple guests. Alicia, did you have anything you wanted to do for a statement? We can do a very brief public session. You have to unmute yourself, though.
Sorry about that. I got my little grandson here who's growing up.
No
very
problem.
quickly.
Right,
Yes,
so-
if this is the public session. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're limiting comments to 2 minutes, please. Okay. So we're
Okay.
gonna,
Okay. We are just concerned about the fact that the 960 Franklin Avenue rezoning application is going to be certified in less than 30 days. And the city charter changed the law allowing the public and CB9 to be able to review the application 30 days before, not so that we could figure out a schedule, as Richard Barak is saying, but so that we can look at the details of this application and possibly influence it before it becomes finalized, which is when it gets certified. So this is a really crucial point in time, this 30-day review, because then if we see this application, we could go to our elected officials, we can ask them to intercede on our behalf. And the Department of City Planning has not produced this application. We've been onto the website, it's not available on the website. I have talked to the Department of City Planning's person who's now, Kevin Kraft has left. The new person who's now in charge of the application, and there's no information on this application. A new application was submitted in September, and so I wanted to find out what is the position of CB9, because this is a very crucial time period before an application is certified. We don't wait until after it's certified, and the reason why we don't wait until after it's certified, because by the time it gets certified, all the deals are done. So we don't know anything about whatever community agreements they are putting in place. We don't know about any environmental measures that they're putting in place to protect the garden, to protect the community. We don't have any information on this application. And yet the reason for the 30-day review process was so that we would have this information and then be able to act upon it. So my question, Chase, be quiet. My question is basically to the executive board is what do you plan on doing about it? You know, what is your position? Because we, the community, feel like a vital piece of time is being not used wisely, which was the intention of the city charter reform. And I've already sent an email blast where I pulled the city charter new regulations, and it's very clear in the city charter regulations that it was not just supposed to be a notification, but a detailed report about what was being proposed. I don't know if you guys got that. I assume somebody here is on my email list. Did you get that email, Fred, today?
I did see the email. Okay. I did see the email.
Okay.
Today, I'm not sure if I saw something today, but I did see something with regards to that. And just very quickly, because this is something we are going to discuss actually as part of the ULURP when the ULURP chair gets on as well, and I'll address somewhat in my chairman's report. But suffice it to say, at least just very quickly, Mia has actually made some requests.
He's gotten big, right, Fred?
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just to chime in very quickly, I did respond to Hannah's alert from Friday with the specific request for the most updated and current application on file for 960 Franklin, for which a response is still pending.
Okay.
Right. And additionally, if there's a summary that is due, that's more than what they provided, we're also requesting that as well. So right now, we don't have much more than what you've seen. But as we get additional, additional materials, obviously those will be distributed. Those will be available. Those will be made available to the ULURP committee and available at the district office as well, through the district office.
Okay,
But
so
there'll be some more conversation we'll have about that.
Okay, so that's
part of
all.
ULURP and as my executive.
That's it. That was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Is there anyone else on who would like to do, speak for public commentary?
I know you did not put enough oil on, so come over here and don't be using my oil without me.
Okay. All right then. Seeing none, we're going to move on in the agenda to the committee chair check-in. So let me see, in no particular order. Alejandra, just because I see you on my screen. Are you prepared to give a report for housing and for the search?
Yeah. So for this past month of October in the Housing Committee, we had a Know Your Tenants, Know Your Rights training. It was very successful. I think we had at one point throughout the entire program, 30 different folks show up. Plus we have the recording that we can always distribute. We had attorneys from Legal Aid, New York Legal Assistance Group, and housing or tenant organizers from Crown Heights Tenants Union, as well as Housing Justice for All. They gave an update on what the moratorium for evictions actually means and that what it means that it's ending and how to get connected to resources. So that was a really fantastic program that we were able to put together. And then in addition, we had 2 items of business that we need to pass on to the exec committee, landmark preservation issues. I can't remember the exact addresses for the 2, but we had no objections. We heard from both. We saw presentations. And so we want to pass forward those for a vote on the full board. And then in terms of the district manager search committee, we have completed our initial resume review. We have reviewed, I believe, 141 resumes, each with an objective scoring rubric. And we're going to proceed, ideally, right, we're thinking with 12 total, the top 12, 3 separate interview days in the evening, 30-minute interviews each, so that we can whittle it down to a second round, so that we can make our recommendation to the board and bring forward the top candidates for a special board meeting. I will be on medical leave for the next 2 weeks, but I'm working with the rest of the committee to figure out our schedule for interviews. And ideally, we're still on track to be able to finish the process before the end of the year.
Okay, very well. All right. Would you be able to get the information with regards to the LPC applications, just so that way we can, or Mia, do you have the information with regards to the LPC applications, just so that way the exec can know what the applications are requesting?
Now and throw it in the chat for you guys.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat when I look it up. I apologize, I didn't have the particular item.
I think there's a question from Alicia as well.
Yes, I see that.
Yes, go ahead, Alicia.
What anticipated dates are you anticipating the interviews? And you are aware that those dates have to be made public, and so that we start in a public session and then we can go into an executive session?
Yes, they will be made public. I'll be working with the committee to plan those dates in advance. We have to give the person, the people that we're going to bring for interviews, advance notice.
And will these interviews be in person?
No, they will not be in person. They'll be over Zoom. There will be no more in person. That was only to ensure that we did not have any resumes. Since we're reviewing 144 resumes, we didn't want people's personal information or anything like that getting out. We have, as part of our process, a rubric with 144 resumes, or actually technically 141 resumes with all the scores from all 5 board members. And then we have basically the top ones we're going to take and move forward to the interview process.
And one other question, how many potential candidates are you trying to present after this first round of interviews? You're saying that you already narrowed it down to about 12. And how many of the 12 do you plan on then moving forward?
I don't know. That's after we finish interviews. We'll make that decision as a committee. Depends on the quality of the interviews and how many qualified candidates we get. We feel that should be brought before the community board and in its entirety. And so I leave that to the full committee to make a vote and decide on it. Ideally, I think 3 to 4 is my personal preference, but again, that's up to the full committee. And we'll go from there. Our plan is to have a full special community board meeting dedicated solely to meeting the candidates before there's any vote, so that all community board members and community members can have an opportunity to ask questions and hear from the particular finalists in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alejandra. Okay, Primo, I see you. Are you prepared for a report for youth services?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I can speak about what we're doing. So, we hosted our first, proper meeting last month of the Youth Services Committee. We had a number of returning participants as well as a number of new additions to the committee, and so really excited to get some new blood in and to have also some returning folks from previous years who carry a lot of experience in community understanding and relationships. I think it was fairly agreed upon during our committee meeting that one of the areas where we'd like to focus is a higher level of actual youth involvement on the committee. And so we are going to make some efforts to make sure that we have some young people, at least one, on the committee. And then we'd also like to increase the level of kind of connectiveness that we have with local schools in the district. And so reaching out to local schools so that we kind of have access to more young people in the district is going to be something that we're going to focus on early. We outlined 4 events that we'd like to host throughout the year. For those who are unfamiliar, we typically host one event every year, which is the Career Expo. We think that with the virtual setup, we have a greater opportunity to kind of host more opportunities to meet with young people. And so the first thing that we're going to do is a youth night. And that's really, again, around this idea of engaging youth voice. And so we're going to get some young people to come and talk to us about what kind of priorities and challenges they have so that we can focus our programming around a youth-centered approach to programming moving forward over the course of the year. That's also a great opportunity for us to get folks to actually join the committee who are younger. And then we are going to have some returning programming. So we're going to have the financial literacy event that we hosted last year. We are going to have kind of a focus on students in the older age bracket evening. So thinking about resume and cover letter work for students who are in college and maybe leaving college. And then the last thing that we're going to do is a career expo. So that's kind of an early and ambitious set of goals for the things that we'd like to accomplish over the course of the year. So it's going to happen on a cadence of like having an event every other month. Basically, we'll take a month to plan, we'll execute an event. We'll take a month to plan, we'll execute an event. So let me know if anybody has any questions, but that's the basic idea this year.
Hi, Primo, it's Warren.
Yes.
First of all, that all sounds terrific. Second of all, do you, and you don't have to answer this now, what can we do to assist the youth in terms of COVID-19, whether it's PPE, education, things like that?
Yeah.
So if you could put that on your agenda, it'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's a great question for us to ask the young people during our first youth night, which will be happening next month. So we'll definitely add that to the list of talking points. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but we'll ask them the question and see what they say.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Warren. Alicia, I see you. Yeah.
I have a question. I just wanted to find out, would your committee be looking at this whole issue on charter schools? We're talking about referring to younger children in charter schools. Is this a place that a parent who might have some concerns about the charter education versus public education, would your committee be entertaining, inquiries into that and maybe discussing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me first say that I am personally open to entertaining any sort of conversation. And if anybody wants to talk about, something like getting a better scope of, charter, or expressing their opinions or concerns, I'm happy to do that. But I would caution, the only thing that I would kind of identify is that the Youth Services Committee focuses really on the age bracket of kind of 16 to 24. So we typically work with like high school age students and older. And the Education Committee is what focuses on youth kind of in the younger age brackets, I think like pre-K through entering high school. And so maybe that is the right place to go. I will, however, say that this is kind of the last year, the Education Committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, was kind of non-functioning. And so this year it's under new leadership and hopefully will be functioning at a higher level. But if you would like to talk with us, we have some educators on our committee as well. And of course, we'd be happy to talk to any member of the community about any of their concerns.
Yeah, there was a point when the Education Committee and the Youth Committee kind of merged, and so that's probably where I'm talking about. But are they now separate, Fred? I'm sorry, I'm a little out of the loop.
They're separate.
No, they've always been separate. They've always been separate. typically, and as a matter of fact, just for background, TV9 is one of the few boards that actually have them separate. More often than not, in other boards that I've had conversations with, our colleagues actually have them. Education and youth services are together. And as was brought up before, I think education has not been functional for the last couple of years, which is actually changing this year because we have a strong leadership there. And he might be able to arrange some of those conversations, or at least brokers, kind of coordinate that as well.
Okay,
So that's
so
something that we can definitely ask him, when he comes up as well.
yeah, so what I'll do is I'll refer that question then to the Education Committee. Thanks so much. I
Fair enough.
appreciate that.
Fair enough. All right, are there any other questions for Primo?
No.
Okay, I do actually have one. For just one request. So Primo, so I definitely love the idea of having more youth members on the committee, because it only makes sense, because they can really, inform in terms of telling you what needs to happen in the community. So I think that's great. The only thing is, as if you're moving towards that, especially if it's more towards a more formalized membership, let's talk, especially with the district office, and I want to make sure we bring Borough Hall in, just because I want to make sure that, if there's any guidelines or anything we need to do or follow, especially because we're dealing with younger kids, if there's permissions we need to have, or how we make sure that they're a part of the committee. I would just like to make sure we get that cleared before we say, okay, yes, now you're on the committee, you're doing things. And maybe there's adults who need to know what they're doing as well, and who they're around.
100% makes sense, Fred. Absolutely. We'll do that. We'll make sure to, should I just fire up that conversation now with you and shoot you an email so we can kind of follow that thread? Should we get kind of the pre-approval before we actually get the young people in the door?
I think that'd be a good idea, because I was actually working on email correspondence to do like an e-blast to the principals in the area, so they can make a recommendation for their participant for their respective sites to participate in the youth night.
Fantastic. So Mia, you and I will, I'll email you and Fred, and we'll get the conversation started offline. Thanks for raising it, Fred. Appreciate it.
I have a question.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Are you meeting in person, or how are you doing that?
We, as a youth committee, we're meeting on Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah, it'll be a virtual night. We'll be hanging out online.
All of the events, we're anticipating all of the events throughout the year will be online. That may change, but I doubt it.
Okay. And only because we spoke of him, I think next, Riel, I thought I saw you online. Can you give the Education Committee report?
Yeah, I'm here, Fred. How are you, everybody? And by the way, just a technical comment. We had our first education and library committee. I was reading the bylaws and realized that's what it was called, right? Or that's probably where the name came from, because I was surprised to hear that I was now running the Education and Library Committee. And we used WebEx last week, and I just want to go on record and say I'm not a fan. It wasn't as productive, didn't work very well, and that there were a couple of limitations with it. So I'm going to lobby to be on Zoom next time I have an education meeting. Small point. So early days, we only met once last week as an introductory meeting, and to set some of the kind of set up some of the groundwork for the Education Committee, especially because it has been dormant for a while. And then in the midst of all of that, of course, the world, as far as education goes, has changed quite a bit and has shifted quite a bit. And so what that means for an Education Committee also has shifted. We spent most of our time thinking through and brainstorming ideas, from more recreational ideas to engage families in educational type activities. One of the members suggested, for example, trying to organize a spelling bee as something more lighthearted and education oriented, to more serious issues around, assessing what principals need, reviving a collaboration with the office of Diane Richardson, for example, who had an education committee at some point that did quite a bit of legwork on mapping out the needs of the district. I remember reading that report. It's probably 2 years ago. That was quite detailed on the number of available programs in schools and needs that the principals had, and so that's something that we would be interested in linking back up with, and perhaps getting the collaboration up and running again. The next meeting will be focused on nailing down the initiatives for the year. Generally, my recommendation for committees is to to not to aim too high in a year, right, and not put too many events on a calendar and end up doing nothing, because I think that's often what happens. Lots of planning and nothing really comes off the ground. And so, I hope by next month to have some outline on what we will be doing. Primo's setting the bar here with a high bar with an event every other month. Not going to make those promises. Obviously there are some significant needs at the moment that COVID has exacerbated, right? I am particularly interested and concerned about access to after school and access to affordable after school. There's some issues there that I know about, and that I would like the committee to at least engage on. The city of New York, having made some choices that make it very difficult for after school providers to operate. And while the city says we care about working class people, what they do is quite the opposite. And so that is something that we always should take an opportunity to give some attention to. But again, there's a number of I think potential directions we can go in. I do hope to recruit a member or two. I'll talk to you about that offline, Fred. I think the committee can use some additional members and broaden its ability a little bit. Other than that, I think we're organized. The system's up and running. Everybody seems to be communicating, and I hope that we will be very productive very soon. And by the way, Alicia, I'd love to hear about you. I'm curious what you mean about. I certainly have a lot of feelings and thoughts about charter schools, but I wonder what you are alluding to when you talk about charter and public.
If you are amenable to it, I can, if you want to, you can give me your email address and I can have a conversation offline and talk to you. But I think that is an issue that I would like to bring to the Education Committee. If you're welcome to hearing that. So if you don't mind, if you could put your email address in. No, you don't want to give your email address?
No, that's not what
you are.
My shaking head was no, I don't mind.
Oh, okay. So if you could drop it into, if you want to just give it to me, that's fine. But then I can get it and then we can have a chit chat.
It's in the box.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll reach out to you and then we can just have a conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions for the Education Chair?
Can I just add something, which Riel reminded me of, and I don't know if you and me have probably talked about this, but one of the things that came up during our meeting, re-tech, is we had Zoom crashers in our meeting.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw that in your email. Yeah.
We were not prepared for it. I mean, all of our agendas are posted publicly, right? Which means kids want to come and cause trouble, they can. And so I just think
some wild kids causing trouble for the youth committee.
Some wild kids. There were some naked kids. There were some wild kids, man. It was a whole thing. They were shouting, they were cursing, they were insulting everybody.
Oh wow.
They came to disrupt, and they were successful. But I think there's probably some thinking that needs to be done around what if that happens in a future meeting, and ways that we can safeguard against it happening. So just raising that and bringing it to folks at point of attention too for your subcommittees, because this could obviously easily happen to you as well. So pay close attention to your waiting rooms and let people in intentionally, make sure that they rename themselves. And be ready to
that's right.
to mute or kick people out of the meeting, because that's the easiest way to be able to move on. Yeah, that's all.
That actually happened with the Economic Development Committee meeting on October 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost as if those first series of meetings, someone placed those agendas somewhere on a bathroom wall or something. That whole week we had to contend with outside activity.
For a good time, go to CB9.
Yeah, pretty much.
The same thing happened in the housing committee meeting, but fortunately it was like literally at the end when we were wrapping up the meeting. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I'm a little offended nobody did it do the education committee, you know?
you don't even want it. It's so disorienting. It's just so much. It's like almost shocking.
I know.
I
I'm
think that
joking.
one of the best ways to move forward is to make the committee chairs, when possible, co-hosts for the evening, so that, as Primo stated, we can then make admissions to the meeting intentionally, have people identify themselves. If they choose not to, we can remove them from the room.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and Mia did relay all the issues that happened with that. You know, this is you know, one of the downsides of technology, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But to that point, I mean, I think, you know, I think we've really discussed some of the measures that we can do in terms of being proactive. So basically making sure that people, are on the call, are comfortable or are trained and comfortable with understanding how to handle that in terms of how do you hit the mute button? How do you eject somebody from a meeting? Good points raised about making sure you know who's in the meeting as well. So, if somebody's coming in and they don't want to identify themselves who they are, it's somebody you keep an eye on. I know that one of the challenges oftentimes too is, if there's only one person moderating, that's the one person who has to watch everything. So perhaps even having, the chair or maybe one or two other people in the committee who are actually helping to watch the chat. So if trouble does start, then we can kick the plan into action in terms of how do you rectify that to make sure that order is restored.
Definitely.
I'm sorry, Mia, I think I cut you off.
No, I think that was Ms. Boyd chiming in. Ms. Boyd?
Yes, as always, you know that I am always thinking about the open meetings law and the public law, and these are public meetings. So you are not allowed to, no one is allowed to prevent people from entering into the meetings. So even if they choose not to identify themselves, they still are allowed to go to the meeting. However, once they're there, if you choose to mute them, that's questionable. I mean, I don't know if that's in violation of the open meetings law or not. Obviously, this whole Zoom thing is going to be challenged in the court of law because there are a lot of situations where communities and residents are not allowed to participate and they are just blanketly closed just because people don't like to hear what they have to say. And obviously now you have this other situation where you have people who are intentionally coming in to disrupt just for fun. But let's be clear that the open meetings law does apply here. You cannot prevent people from attending a public meeting. So my suggestion, and and again, this might be something that eventually gets to the courts and some decision will be made, would be, if people are coming in, they're not identifying themselves, just have someone else just monitor those people. And then if they do begin to act, let's use mute buttons. I'm not sure rejecting them or pushing them out of the meeting is legal. Just like if I was at a community board and I started yelling, and people have known me to do that. You're not allowed to just remove me because you don't like the fact that I'm making noise that's upsetting you. So it's probably the same law applies. It's our First Amendment rights. But again, you do have the mute button. And I guess if you engage in the mute button, I don't see how they could get past disturbing you.
But
Yeah, I think we're going to reach out to General Counsel for additional guidance, because that's great on a smaller level when it's committee and it's 10, 12 people. But when we're at General Board and we're talking about 50, 60 people, and you may have people muting and unmuting themselves while you're attempting to regain control of the meeting, that could be complete chaos. I think, Fred, I think I'll be reaching out to General Counsel just to get a bit more guidance.
But if it was live, according to your rules, our rules and regulations, you can have somebody removed, and that's live. Okay, if they're disruptive, if you turn around and read what your rules and regulations are in terms of holding a meeting, you could have them actually removed. Alicia, you've been removed before, you know that.
Yes, and I've sued the board and won.
That's fine, but I'm just saying these are what the rules and regulations are. But I don't know what you would do when they're online, because like you said, if you got 40 people, I mean, you can't mute all 40. Well, I don't know how you would do that.
I mean, just in terms of moving the agenda. So I will work, we'll work with Mia. We'll work with Corporation Counsel, and we'll develop a protocol that we'll share, especially to the point. I want to make sure that the committee chairs are aware of what the protocol is. So if it happens to you, you know exactly how we're going to handle it, and we're going to run it every time. So this will be something that will be clear, and you'll all be advised and trained if necessary in terms of how we handle it.
And Fred, I would hope that that will be shared with the public as well.
It's all public information.
Yeah, and Fred, for what it's worth, for what it's worth, I imagine there's also a distinction between whether somebody's disruptive because they're actually attendant to the meeting, or somebody's just coming to disrupt the meeting.
Right.
Right.
But I'll let other people provide the guidance. But it seems to me that there's a difference between those two. And Zoom bombers are not that. They're not participants in the meeting, right?
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. Well, rather than keep going, we'll make sure we come up with a policy, and that'll be shared, and that'll be something that we'll be able to discuss right there, as opposed to discussing something that's hypothetical. Okay, Rio, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And instead of saying I hope it's going to be a successful year, I know it's going to be a successful year, and I appreciate you taking on the task of running education and library.
Honored to. Thank you.
All right. Let me see. Is transportation on? Carmen on?
I'm on.
Yes.
He's on.
Oh, okay, Carmen. Give a report.
Hello?
Yes, Carmen. Are you prepared for a report for transportation?
Well, we had our first meeting, and the assignment, we had a lengthy discussion on the budget and the need for the transportation committee members to kind of give input as to how what is needed in the community in terms of making the streets safer and for motorists and pedestrians alike. So they were tasked with identifying specific streets, avenue, thoroughfare, side street that were in need of repair, so that we can be more specific in submitting our budget requests, so that instead of saying CV9 Street are in bad condition and they need to be repaired, that we can say, these streets in CV9, Lincoln Road, Lefford, Rutland Road, between whatever and whatever are in need of repair because whether there are potholes, lack of marking, faded bicycle lanes, as well as obstruction of bicycle lanes. So the idea is that when we make our requests, rather than getting responses from the agencies such as no specific information provided, we give specific information, and also in addition to the budget request to the city for the need assessment for the district, Assemblywoman Diana Richardson has fundings. I believe she said it was like $400,000 that she has dedicated specifically for transportation issues in the district. So we are hoping to be able to incorporate her funding as well to alleviate some of the condition. And a perfect example is the situation on Midwood with the flooded streets due to the sloping of the road, and Schenectady, the need for speed camera in certain areas, things that actually require actual expenditures. So I have to review the input. We created a Google Doc so that everybody can just dump all of their thoughts and idea, and then I can just take all of those input and put it into a document to be submitted to CV9 for the need assessment for the district. And we will be inviting, having conversation about the Club Road project, hopefully next month. I mean, that's basically it. And of course, we'll take any input from the board members as well, as to what area they see themselves, whether it be the street that they live on, or the street that they travel through, that they see specific needs for capital expenditures. So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you very much, Carmen. Any questions for the Transportation Committee Chair?
Yes. Oh, okay. Just, I'm a little confused about that. And I've been hearing a lot of different stories about that pavement, that brick pavement. I know that that was a project that was being entertained by the previous EULA chair, Michael, I forgot his last name, about 6 or 7 years ago. And then the DOB came back and said that they didn't really want to spend that kind of money, so they just wanted to pave over it. So now, where exactly is it? Who's paying for what? I heard that Diana Richardson was supposed to be paying for it underneath the guise that it was a Native American thing. I don't know how that happened. But if you could just explain to me who's now supposed to be footing that bill.
Are you talking about Clove Road?
Is that the one with the cobblestones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when Bornine had taken up the issue of Clove Road, let me just clarify that Bornine was not involved in the recent development for Clove Road. Apparently, Carl Cohen, whose development is going up on North Strand and Montgomery, submitted the same proposal that had been submitted before with Michael Satera, that
Right.
DOT refused to even touch because the community wanted the cobblestone safe, and DOT's position was that they didn't want to be bothered with that. They just wanted to go cover it all up. So now the project has resurfaced, and again, without input.
Okay, we lost you,
From
Carmen.
what
Can you say that again?
The project has resurfaced without DOT input. From what we understand, DOT is ready to fund the plaza, the building of the plaza, but the project sponsor, i.e. Carl Cohen and the engineers, are supposed to solicit funds from whatever sources for the maintenance of the plaza. Being that Bornine was not involved, we invited DOT to the Transportation Committee meeting. They said they were not ready to discuss the project because they did not have enough information to provide us. We also invited Carl Cohen's to explain how his project came to be selected by DOT when they basically turned their nose up when we submitted the same project. We also extended an invitation to Mike Satera, being that he is the original sponsor, and he did not attend the meeting. So at this time, we ourselves, Bornine, is trying to gather up information as to how this project came to be without it going before the board, and how DOT all of a sudden acquired funding when they stopped discussing the project with us. I believe it was like in 2014, and said they had no money for it, and we don't want to talk about it anymore, and that's the end of that. And now they're willing to move forward and fund the project. So we are as curious as you are as to exactly what is going on with this project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Carmen? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much for your report, Carmen. And just along those lines, so Clove Road is definitely a topic that we are still working on. There's still information that we don't have, but we've made the inquiry, so we're going to have additional information, and I'm sure this is going to be an item on your agendas in the coming months. So we'll have more information to pass on as the coming months. And again, thank you very much. I thought I heard, is Fran on the line?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
She's
Do
there.
you have a report? Do you have a report for Health and Social Services?
I think so. Good evening, everyone. We met last month. Our committee met last month on October 1st, and in discussion, we discussed COVID, the rise of COVID in the community, and also we know that we had issues with mental health in the community, but with COVID, the rise of the mental health issue has risen. And then we are looking to get some information as to how we can work around this. And then this will be in partnership with Kings County Hospital. I had a meeting with NAACP, the Health Committee, and which was during the Sickle Cell Awareness Month. And it was brought to the table that, much is not being said about sickle cell, and they would like to come to the community board to do a presentation and have conversation with the community to bring more awareness concerning sickle cell, because a lot of people, especially young adults, they're dying with sickle cell, and much is not being said about it. Also, one of the presenters at the meeting from the Methodist Presbyterian Hospital, they've been having workshops. And one of the presentations that I would like to happen is to do with the economic material for children at home, the chairs that they use, the tables, even when you look at the TV and they're talking to kids, the way they're slouching at the tables when they sit on the chairs, they are not being, their posture and everything is out of whack. So we're gonna have a presentation on that as to the type of chairs and tables they should have for the kids and their posture, and even for the parents who are working at home also, because I was hospitalized 2 weeks ago. Well, I went to emergency, we didn't stay over, and I thought that I was having something going on with my head. And then afterwards, they realized that I'm sitting at the computer for the past 6 months all day, because we are doing much more work at home than when we are at the office. We sit more at the computer, and my foot was swelling, and so I had so much going on with me, not realizing just that I spent so much time at the computer. Like now, I have been at my computer from 9 o'clock this morning up to now. So we want to bring some awareness and have somebody to come to speak to the general public concerning the kids and how parents should pay attention to that. And also we want on One Crown Heights that I'm on the committee, and Rabbi Cohen was talking about seeing how he saw how COVID have affected young people in the community. So even with the kids working at home, they're doing the remote learning at home. They're not seeing their friends. They're not going outside. They're just home. And so we want to have some sort of awareness for a conversation with parents that they could see the change, the different change, and how things are happening with the kids, to pay attention to that, and whatever help that the kids may have, that we could have somebody that they can talk to, they can interact with. And we have different, and maybe Warren could even chime in with that when it comes to the hospital and what the hospital is open to do to help this type of situation. Because our young kids, parents are able to talk and more, but kids kind of hold things in. And a lot of them, it's affecting them that they're not able to go outside, they're not able to interact with their friends and just sitting at a computer all day. And also, we are partnering with community organizations also, because if you look, a few months ago during the summertime, we gave out about 10,000 masks in the community. And during that time, from Nostrand to Utica and down to Claxon. And during that time on the street doing that project, we saw so many people in need of masks. And there are people who are walking on the street, and it is something that I spoke about before. There are so many people walking on the street, and they have dirty masks on their face. And some of them tell you, hey, I've been wearing my mask for a week. But people have to make a decision. Am I buying masks or I'm buying food for my family? And most times people, they just have the same mask and they're wearing it. So we are, and even now, you know, people are still taking advantage and selling inferior masks. As soon as you put it on your face and you put it behind your ears, it just, you know, fall apart, and they would sell them for $5. So Mia and I have been in conversation and working with partners, and some few people have opted in to donate masks. I think the last time, I think, was it, what's his name? Primo, I think, said, told me something about helping out with some masks as well. Councilman Matthew Eugene contacted me, and then he told me that he would like to work with my community also to give out some hand sanitizers and some masks as well. So these are the projects that I'm working on. And then we are looking also to do, I did a food drive with the DA's office last week. So they're willing to work. So we will bring in, I had conversation with Mia, so we'll connect with other organizations. And during the week, maybe the first week or the second week of November, to do a food drive, because it's around Thanksgiving. So to see how much we can help the community. So we can have masks, we can have hand sanitizers, and at the same time, if we have some goodies to give out, we'll do that also. And with our seniors, I have to connect with because we know that the senior centers, they will close, but some of the seniors, you know, they're still deprived of certain services that they need. I have been calling the centers, but very few people return the calls, you know, so I'm still working on that to see what information I can get, you know, to reach out to the seniors to see what's happening, the senior centers directors to see what's happening with them.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank.
Yes.
Are there any questions for the Chair of Health and Social Services?
Yes.
Hi, it's Warren.
Warren.
Hi, Francesca.
Go ahead, Warren.
In terms of what Francesca was referring to about the mental health surge, the surge is with adults. Kings County has treated a 300% surge in adults with mental issues. Upon further questioning in terms of youth, that surge has not occurred. The reason that they feel there is a 300% surge is because of a number of facilities who previously dealt with mental illness have not reopened. So they're going to Kings County. I do want to make one comment about Thanksgiving, because I had a family outing the other day, and I was just thinking when Francesca was talking, is that what happens to all these people who used to go for Thanksgiving dinner at the shelters or the soup kitchens and everything else? So that's something we need to put on our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you
very much, Warren.
Yeah.
Alicia, I saw you had a question.
Yes. One of the things, having a grandson who's now 5 years old, one of the things that I want, and I'm so glad that you're talking about the amount of time that children are spending in front of the computer. I'm wondering, are you looking at the early children, like those early childhood children, the 3 or 4 and 5 year olds that are now doing virtual learning, and where, you know, an entire day is now being scheduled for them to literally be in front of the computer? And so is that also a topic that you guys are looking at? Because I think it's definitely a concern that I have as having now a grandson who's a kindergartner. And I'm just wondering.
We're looking at kids across the board.
Okay.
Any child who sits in the across the board, any child who sits in the who is doing remote learning, remote education, we are looking for children across the board that will be having a conversation on that to address it, because it's very important.
I would assume that a lot of people are now researching this or analyzing this. Are you guys planning on having any professors or anybody who might have looked at this issue prior and then now have some information about it and helping parents navigate, you know, this very large chunk? So good. So please just keep
definitely so.
So so you plan on actually having an event so parents can go to it? Is that my understanding? and have a conversation?
I think that would be the best thing to do, a virtual, because when I look, I think side on side, I think Warren was at my last meeting, and because of we have so much packed into our monthly community meetings, so they wouldn't have enough time to do a presentation. So I think that we have to, on sideline, I will be having conversation with the chair and the committee so that we can have a night of just to deal with that. So parents could come and ask questions and they can get all the necessary information, because 15 or 20 minutes is not enough for that.
Well,
for that
thank you.
conversation.
And please just, make sure that you keep me informed. I will let the community know through my resources, and I definitely will be interested in attending.
The Education Committee also, so the Education Committee also discussed this, both the combination of supporting families and how they can support their children better through the remote learning, as well as the mere notion of spending so much time behind the screen, and how you can at least perhaps correct for some of that as a possible topic or as a possible activity that the Education Committee could focus on. So Francesca, I would love to hear more.
Okay, thank you. We can work together, collaborate together to get this happening. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Appreciate all the work that you and your committee are doing. Next, do we have the chair? Is environmental protection here this evening?
I don't think Yankee is here.
Okay, no problem. We'll get him later on. Economic development. How can I skip? Ms. Timothy.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Nice to see everyone. So we had our first Economic Development Committee meeting on October 5th. And it was a nice little meeting with our little crew. We talked about, doing something for the small businesses in the community. So we had a dialogue around that. Pretty much what we decided we were going to do is to gather information. If anyone else has information that they would like to share with us in terms of, assistance for small businesses in the community, but not just in our community, I guess wherever, other communities that may need the same information. So we're going to gather information, compile information rather, and use the community board social media to post the information on so that they can, information from there. Or, I'm not sure how many people would be able to. I know Khalid said that he had a list. So I'm not sure how updated that list is. So, we're going to be using the social media at the board to get the information out to the small businesses. And hopefully we can also do some other projects that we're still talking about. One of them is, like a reusable CB9 bag, and reach out to Grow NYC and see how we can roll out that project with, some food with that bag. So that's something that we're talking about as well. And then there are other community members and committee members that also have some ideas. So we are going to work, to see how we can bring back our community to what it was a few years back. And also we have been, I reached out to, or actually I asked Mia to reach out to Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, our contact over there, as well as New York City Small Business Services, our contact over there, and Dale Charles at Impact Brooklyn, so that they can update us on what services they have been providing to small businesses in our communities, and how did that work out? During these uncertain times. So hopefully we can get them to be to join us at our next on November 9th to update us on that. And we plan to continue to dialogue on, how we can put our brilliant minds that we all have as a little group together to, do things for our community. And again, if anyone has any information that they want to share, so that we can add it to our compiled list, we would appreciate that. In terms of the budget, I submitted a budget report at the last board meeting, so I hope everyone had a copy. I'm hoping that I can, update one again for the upcoming executive board meeting next week. So hopefully we can get a sense as to what we have left and what we spent in CB $9. And that's all I have.
Hi, Debbie. It's Warren.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
So I was just thinking in terms of what's coming up in the holiday season.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration to put, you don't have to answer this question now, but to think about doing some sort of shop local activities as we used to? So that's just something.
Well, I know that Impact Brooklyn, we partnered with them last year. So hopefully we'll get a sense as to whether we can do that again this year. I'm not sure what Dale is doing as yet. So when, when I have an opportunity to speak with her, or if she joins us at the next meeting, we can get all that information and, get a sense as to what we can do for the holidays or partner with.
Okay, I'd like to be included in those discussions because if we need money, we can raise some money.
Okay.
But I think at this point in time, it's very important. And my second point is that if you could put on your agenda about the PPP money, the Payroll Protection Program, that did occur, because it's now coming time for the small businesses to report. So if, maybe we become a resource for that to help people fill out the forms and everything else.
Right. Well,
So,
we did utilize Impact Brooklyn for that because they had attorneys working with them.
That'd be great.
To help
Okay.
all businesses.
Great. But we need to disseminate that
as well.
Yeah. We may want to figure out a way to disseminate that to the merchants so they know that resource is available.
Oh, I actually went out and flyered for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like I say, once we get to Dale, she can update us on how that went.
Okay. Keep me in the loop.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello?
You're muted, Fred. We can hear you.
Yeah.
No, this is Carmen. This is Carmen.
Oh, hi, Carmen.
I know.
I just wanted to follow up with Debbie on the PPP. One of the things that is important for your committee to work with these small businesses, because as you are aware, they are now forgiving loans up to $50,000.
Right.
And the loan forgiveness application, some banks have already started taking the application. Others are not ready yet because they have to create a separate database from their daily operation for the loan forgiveness programs.
Right.
But the SBA has done hundreds of webinars that explain the whole process, the application, the 508 loan form, the 508 easy form. So the committee should be trying to make sure that those businesses are aware and that they should also partake in these webinars because the official from SBA are conducting those webinars and they answer your question directly.
Right.
And they also send you the PowerPoint to all participants, so you can also read up on the entire matter on your own after the webinar.
Right.
So I believe there's one, I know I signed up, I think there's one coming up in a couple of days. I'm gonna send you that information.
All right.
And Impact has been very instrumental in, you know, keeping the small businesses aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses that do not deal with Impact. The Flatbush, that Parkside Plaza does, because the I believe the executive director from Impact is part of that committee. But you got businesses on Rogers and Nostrand and other places that have never even been involved with Impact. So Board 9 needs to be diligent in distributing that information. And SBA guidelines are changing on a daily basis.
Right.
So what's good today might not necessarily be good tomorrow, which is why it's important that they make an effort to attend all of those webinars that they offer.
Right. Well, some of the information that I compiled has all that information in there in terms of what the organizations offer. So, you know, that would be helpful as well. So, you know, we're going to try to look into as much information as we can as a committee and, you know, try to get the information out there.
And along those lines as well, you know, I think that one of the things that we did see is that there were a number of businesses who either didn't want to try and take advantage of something like PPP,
Right.
or they didn't know how to take advantage of something like PPP.
Right.
And maybe I'm a dreamer, but I believe that there might be another opportunity for them to get in there, which
Yeah,
means it would be something great if, as a board, we can kind of set them up. Listen, if you weren't able to do it the last time, or you couldn't do it the last time,
Right.
you don't have to lose your business over this. We can start getting you ready, or this is the process that you can start doing. So that way, if it does come around, you're ready to take advantage of some of these things. And then even along those same lines, even if you don't just take advantage of a PPP, a lot of the time, small business services can get you into stuff, but you just need certain paperwork and documentation.
Exactly. So that's the whole reason, trying to get them to come and update us on what's, you know, taking place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Debbie,
I'm sorry,
I navigated PPP successfully, happy to report, and so we're starting to deal with the forgiveness applications now. But if in the future there are additional opportunities and I can support any small businesses in the neighborhood, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rio. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. So let me see. Going back, Yakov is public safety is not on the line right now. Okay, we will go past public safety. ULURP, Madam Chair, you on?
I'm on.
You're on.
Okay.
Sorry, Pat.
Anyway, well, anyway, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing?
Well, you tell us.
Well, I want to know how everybody else is doing. Anyway, we held a meeting. Our first meeting was held on October the 13th. And we did submit our minutes as requested. And I would hope that those minutes would be forwarded to the entire board, you know, for your meeting, the full board meeting next Tuesday. And that way they can get a lot of information that we discussed at that meeting. Well, anyway, recently, Community Board 9 received a 30-day notice on October 16th from the Department of City Planning. They wanted to inform us that the pre-certification review has started for 960 Franklin Avenue project. And they are scheduled to be certified by November 16th, 2020. Now, once 960 is certified, Community Board 9 will have 60 days to hold a public hearing. Like we stated, we didn't get a application. This is really their third application because they had two before that, I think they had one in 2019 and they had one in April. And then this is the third revision that they had September 22nd. But we didn't get a copy of that. So I know that's been requested. So we'll wait and see if we get a copy. But I wanted to get ahead of what's going on. And so that everybody would kind of, get an idea as to what this whole situation is about. I wanted to hold a special planning group meeting, and I wanted to really with ULUP, and I wanted to try and hold it next Thursday at 7, only for about an hour. I just think that we need to do some pre-planning prior to the certification. The pre-certification that the review they're doing now is basically just to really ensure that 960 meets all the established guidelines. So once they're certified, then everything really starts moving. But I would like to start moving prior to the certification. So I was just hoping that the people would be available next Thursday at 7 o'clock for about an hour. I would also like the following committee chairs to also sit in with me, because certain parts they are involved in. One is the environmental chairperson, definitely needs to be there. There's materials and stuff that we really need to have and reports. The housing, if the housing chair could also set in, and transportation. And anybody else that want to come, but these are, I'm just saying, this is a planning group, and we're not going to be there alone. We're just going to put something in place. Because at the end of the day, we only have, like I said, after they're certified, we only have 60 days to really to have the public hearing. So I like to have everything planned. And even if they're not certified by if they're not certified by the 16th, we still have our plans in order. And at least have some materials, because we already know that we're not going to get all the materials until they are certified. They're only going to give us little dribs and drabs of stuff. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And actually, just to add to that a little bit, and then we'll entertain questions. Yeah, this is the big one that we've been waiting for. I think this has been coming down the pipe for a while. We knew this was coming. So now I think this is really the first step in that process. But the one thing I'm committed to making sure that we do as a board is that we are going to do a thorough job in terms of asking the questions that need to be asked, looking at the documents that need to be looked at, and making sure that, whatever recommendation comes, whether it's yay or nay, is going to be well informed, and it's going to be based on the documentation, and it's going to be based on the testimony and the presentations and the information that we're given. I want to thank the chair for ULURP for taking this on. She's already started this process in terms of, we want to make sure that there is a roadmap in which we are going to do this and engage. And it's going to be an all hands on deck, really. So yes, ULURP is involved, absolutely. Housing, I'm looking for you to play an integral part of this as well as environmental protection. But absolutely all board members are more than welcome, encouraged, really needed in terms of, once we make sure that this process goes and we're well informed of this community involvement as well. So the purpose of this planning meeting would be to at least start the ball rolling, get that brainstorming in there to figure out what things do we need to have. Obviously, one of the first things that we didn't get was that summary. So that's something that the district office team has already jumped on that in terms of trying to see if we can get access to that. But if there's any other documentation that we need to make sure that we have present so we can make the decision we need to make, now's the time to start planning for it. Now's the time to get ready to ask for it. So that'll be part of the purpose of that meeting that the chair has recommended for next week. Fleshing out the timeline, which is, just from an initial thought about it, it's kind of crazy that they do this in November, because November and December are really kind of some of the worst months with regards to the board. But you know what, that's the card we're dealt, and we just need to make sure that we manage this effectively, that we advertise effectively, and that we push forward and we make sure that we get everything that we need. And with that, if there's any questions for the ULURP chair.
Unmute yourself, Alicia. Unmute yourself.
We just, we forgot about 1035 One Sullivan Place. Would you like to just talk a little bit about that, Pat? Because we did have a discussion about that issue as well.
Okay, yeah, 1035, well, you can discuss that one.
Okay, 1035 is right. There's 3 plots of land that borders the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, 1035 One Sullivan Place. There's a proposed project that is going to go up 12 stories and is going to cantilever over 1035. So that means it's going to go up the 6 stories and then over 4 more stories on top. And they plan on going right up against a set of windows on what you call the S side and removing 5 windows from each apartment on that side. The basic concern that the tenants brought to the committee, the EULA committee, was the fact that there is a problem of egress in that the building's plans for One Sullivan is a very tiny, very narrow piece of land. And according to the plans, they only have 1 set of stairwells on only 1 side of the building. And this can pose a serious fire hazard, because when you have such a long building, even though it's very long, and you put a stairwell only on 1 side, if for some reason the fire happens that blocks that stairwell, then nobody else can get out. And so the law normally requires 2 egresses. So the ask was that Ms. Hilton was going to talk to the Department of Buildings and ask them to look at the plans and see if the plans are actually correct, because we know that building plans are done on an honor system. They are not reviewed unless, of course, there's an inquiry. And I think Ms. Hilton said that she did a
follow-up.
She did a follow-up on that.
Definitely did a follow-up.
Yes, I spoke to Damaris Valero at DOB on Monday, who was in receipt of my original correspondence where I relayed the residents of 1035's concerns about the egress, as well as once the intended development is in place, the lack of egress that they will have for that right side of 1035. It is my understanding that inspectors visited the site last Friday. And additionally, the plans are currently under review in the plan examination unit for the DOB.
Yes, so somebody is now viewing that, just because, so that we can understand, there's a courtyard and they have all of the fire escapes lead to that courtyard. And normally there's an egress point where there's a driveway that you can come out of that courtyard and go right into the street. According to the proposed plan, that driveway would be eliminated and the building would block off that exit point. And so that when people came out of the stairwells or off the fire escape, they would actually be trapped into the courtyard and not have any form of egress out of the courtyard. And so there was a question about that being legal. And also the way in which they got around being able to remove 5 windows from these apartment buildings was that they put all 3 apartments into one unit, as one lot. And there was a question of whether or not that was actually a legal conversion. Did they adhere to the law and all of the guidelines in order to combine those 3 lots?
Well, what we'll do is we'll have basically, hopefully we'll have more information in our November 10th meeting, and to present to the EULA committee.
Yeah, definitely, because that was a part
of
we
should have some more information by then.
That was a part of the ask in the original correspondence. In terms of the egress, in terms of all the bricking off, what are the options? The combination of the lots, even though it has been processed by the city register, if it's found to be a way to skirt the rules, what are then the options for pushback.
And before I sign off, I would like to know if housing would attend our special meeting, transportation, and there's nobody there from the environmental, but hopefully we'll get a memo out and they could at least.
Yeah, definitely. I can pull them online. Not a problem.
Great. That's it.
Okay.
Well, I'll
Madam Chair,
definitely be there.
Well, we know you're gonna be there.
Woo,
Oh,
woo.
And just so you know, it's not a closed meeting, okay?
We know that.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I want to thank all the chairs for all of your hard work. And I would just advise, as you're continuing on, as you're continuing to meet with the committees, let's continue to work on certain themes as well. COVID has been a major theme in terms of, I task the chairs and the committees with thinking about, in your respective areas, what resources do we need or what services do we need in terms of helping the community deal with COVID? So from an economic development perspective, from a housing perspective, from a health and social services, and so on. Thinking about those things that, in terms of from your angle, what things do we need to bring? And I would ask that you bring those things to the table so that way we can make sure we're advocating for those things. ULURP again is going to be a very big thing this year. And I'm asking that we continue with that. All right, and with that, I think we're good. And let's transition. Let's go to the next item. Item number 3. Mia, are you prepared for administrative office check-in?
Yes, sir. But I'm also going to report on behalf of our Public Safety Committee Chair, Rabbi Berman, who was unable to join us this evening. There were 3 applications on the agenda, 2 new applications, one from El Rinconcito and from Zabney. El Rinconcito will be occupying the space formerly held by the pharmacy next to the PLS check cashing place on Empire Nostrand, a very small storefront. And Zamni is located at 1206 Nostrand Avenue at the corner of Hawthorne. And then there is Silver Rice located on Flatbush, 575A Flatbush between Maple and Woodwood. The committee advised that they were happy to move all the applications forward. As it currently stands, Zamni and Silver Rice are still not offering indoor dining, just erring on the side of precaution for their staff and for the general public. El Rinconcito is still in process. I believe the space has to be renovated, so they will be submitting additional layout to the Public Safety Committee just because they're going to be occupying a very small space. And we wanted to see exactly how they would, they wanted to actually have some chairs on the side, some street seating, but due to the very small space and the exit handicap ramp from the PLS check cashing place, the chair and as well as the committee members were interested to see exactly what the proposed layout would be. So that is pending. But as it currently stands, the committee was in support of all 3 applications.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as CB9, I spoke to Stephanie Eisels from Do It early this morning, and happy to report that our new website should be up and running and live within the next 10 business days. After pitching, I guess, what you would say could be a sob story to Stephanie about our budget cuts and a request for assistance, she actually decided to do the bulk of the work for us in terms of getting across the finish line. She's currently working on all of CB9's committee minutes from 2012 forward to make sure that they are completely, they meet the accessibility standards in uploading them and grouping them by year, so from 2012 forward. Additionally, she's waiting for some additional supportive measures from the developer. So I'm assuming that when she completes all of her outstanding work for the minutes, there will be a final once over, and then they will agree to make the site live because it is their work product. And of course, the budget. We've disseminated the budget survey to the board membership, to our community partners, especially we're waiting for return for input from our CB9 principals. Just in COVID has highlighted many service gaps, substandard spaces that our children occupy, as well as our health facilities. COVID has highlighted the gap in service and the standard of service and all things available to services in times of need. So as we receive replies, we are reviewing and including all of that information into our budget requests. The cutoff that we provided for the board membership is this Thursday. I should have return of information from my principals by Friday. And, if that's the case, then I probably have a tentative draft to the general public and to the board membership by Saturday, just so that everyone's reviewing in preparation for the public hearing ahead of the general board meeting on Tuesday. And, additionally, circling back to 960 Franklin, with regard to our request for the EIS report and Arborist report, as it currently stands, after I checked in, our FOIA request has a current due date of 12/18/2020. So that's been pushed back. And the reasoning that's been provided when I log in is due to ongoing emergency response related to COVID-19. So the information that we requested with regard to the project has been pushed back as well. And I think that's about it. And Fran mentioned earlier, we're going to try to put together some type of initiative to support the community during the holidays. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, just because of the level of access we have to community facilities. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation between Fran and myself, and I'm probably going to open up in a draft correspondence to the board membership just to see who would be open to participating and lending a hand for some sort of give back, however it formulates itself and ends up to the community, probably the week before Thanksgiving.
So you're having a hearing on Tuesday?
Yeah, there'll be a 6 p.m. hearing ahead of the general board meeting, just to discuss what's already been compiled. If the public has any additional thoughts based on what has already been disseminated, if you feel like other things need to be highlighted, expounded upon, that would be the time to do so. But I definitely want to get it out probably around Saturday, just so people have the weekend to review it, so that we're not using that time to go line for line, but highlighting important parts and making sure that we're driving the points home for the things that we believe are of the utmost importance.
You're sending that information on Saturday?
Yeah, because I'm waiting for my principals. All the CB9 principals have been asked to make capital and programming inputs for their respective sites. So I want to have the bulk of all the input in place and have it in the draft, and have everyone review what's in place already, and then make recommendations. Come to that meeting with recommendations, not doing a line by line, so to speak, but just expounding upon what's already in place. And that's about it.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
I had have a slight concern concerning the new establishment taking over from that pharmacy. What exactly is it? An eatery? What is it exactly that they put in there? I'm sorry that I missed.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's El Rinconcito is a Dominican food restaurant. I believe she owns another site that's currently active without any FDNY or NYPD activity reporting to the site, but it's a Dominican food place, Dominican cuisine.
Okay. Okay, the only question I had is because I think you mentioned concerning them doing something on the outside, and we know a lot of the restaurants, they really cannot do any indoor sittings and it have to be
Right.
outside. But
And,
then
and that,
the door is,
that was
I'm sorry?
Yakov's concern. Yeah, and that was exactly Yakov's concern because the handicap ramp for the PLS check cashing place leads
Exactly,
directly to the store.
exactly.
So he
Yeah,
wanted to see exactly what were their proposed measurements
yeah,
or, for that space, outdoor space.
yeah. That was my concern also. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, especially because there's metered parking directly in front of it as well.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Got it. Anything
Okay, are there any
else?
questions for the Assistant District Manager? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, the chairman check-in. As you can see, there's a lot of work happening in our district, and that's a good thing. That means the board is doing exactly what we were put here to do. Again, I want to thank everyone for everything you're doing and all the work that I know we're gonna, have to end up putting in. Because it's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting next few months, to say the least. So, with regards to just a few things, I wanted to make the executive committee and the chairs apprised of. So, first of all, and I think the assistant district manager has already kind of pointed that out. You see that we're leveraging technology a lot more than we've probably been used to. And there are growing pains that go along with that, but I want to thank everyone for really pitching in and working with it. I think in some instances it really, really works well. And I think, these are things that we're just probably going to adopt as board practice going forward. Some things we're still learning. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we're remaining committed to learning the lessons, putting those things as policies and procedures and training in place so that way we can be more effective. Doing things like, okay, safety, how do we prevent Zoom bombing, or what's the response when something like that happens? Leveraging the use of surveys so that way we can really put messages out, farther than we probably were able to in the past. Making sure we're communicating with our partners, but we're getting better and we're getting stronger with that. And I'm just looking forward to continuing in that trajectory. One of the things that we had talked about was training, board training. So we've already sent out a save the date. We are planning for a board training to happen on November 16th. At this board training, we're looking at basically making sure we're level setting for all members of the community and for the board members. So modules that we're looking at right now include ULURP, a review of the budget process, so that way everyone understands how the process runs, so that way we can also make sure that we're getting better in terms of gathering data. A parliamentary procedure refresher. We're looking at a review of the bylaws to make sure that everyone understands exactly what we currently have, what's there in our current bylaws. At some point later on, I definitely want us to make sure that we're looking at a refresh or revision of the bylaws, but I want to make sure that we're level setting first. We're going to have a discussion of the open meetings law and FOIL, what our requirements are as a board with that, and also with regards to conflicts of interest. I want to make sure that as a board, people can trust that we are acting ethically in everything that we're doing. Now, this is subject to change, so we may add modules or we may remove modules from this dependent on time, but, and this will most likely not be the only training session we're doing, but I at least wanted to know that this is something that we're very serious about in terms of starting off with this, in terms of making sure that we are informed board. The search committee, again, I want to thank them for all the work they're doing with this. This is definitely, this is definitely a lot of work they've done, 141 resumes, which is just impressive. And they came in and they dedicated time to come and review each and every one, and they had their matrix, their rubric, and they've been able to narrow it down to 12. So that's a significant process that's been made. And I think I'm even more proud of the fact that we are following that outline, that path that we had set forward a few months ago. Obviously, we're not, we wish we could have done faster, but, we've been dealt the cards we have. And I'm just very proud of our committee, our chair and our committee for all the work they've done. And I'm looking forward to when we get to cross the finish line and actually have a district manager in the office. With regards to ULURP, I think we've already started, I think we already have, I'm not saying that we have a path yet, but I think we're starting on a path where this next meeting, next week, Thursday, is going to be helpful in terms of us putting together all the cards on the table, understanding what we have, understanding where the gaps are, what we need to get, and also making sure that we have a path that's going to be clear for everyone in terms of this is how Community Board 9 is going to tackle and address this issue. I want to make sure that there's transparency. I want to make sure that there are opportunities for engagement and for the public to actually have input in this as well. So when this actually comes out, this is going to be something that comes out in January. I want to make sure that our board is confident that we are making a well-informed decision, and we're going to do that. Additionally, right, so I think I just want to stress the importance of, Mia has already said, we're going to have a hearing. So I need to make sure that everyone puts on their calendar that they need to be there at 6 p.m., not 7 p.m., 6 p.m., because we have to discuss the budget and the needs. The last piece I have, I just wanted to make a notice of, I spoke with one of my colleagues over at CB17, and during one of their meetings last month, somebody had brought up that they had heard that Kingsbrook Jewish is closing. So I've had a call with Assemblymember Richardson, and she convened a meeting with a number of other stakeholders in the community. And at this meeting, basically, we want to make sure that it's clear. Kingsbrook Jewish is not closing. So because of the One Brooklyn Health initiative that they're doing, we know that Kingsbrook Jewish Medical Center, along with Interfaith Hospital and Brookdale, are operating jointly. And what they're doing is they're leveraging each other's strengths. So they're not competing in certain areas. They're working together in a number of things. So which means that if somebody is a specialist in a certain particular field of medicine, let them be the specialist, which means that the other hospitals can do other things. So they're not competing against each other, but rather they're working together. So what this means is there are going to be some changes at Kingsbrook Jewish, but the facility is not closing. And I wanted to make sure that that's clear. I'll have additional information on that I'll actually present at the board meeting. But I just need that for the executive committee and for the for the public to know that, if you hear that, please correct that. It's not true. They're not closing down. That's all I have currently. Well, actually, and just one last thing. So with regards to the committees, so I'm very happy with the way that they've been functioning so far. But one of the things we're going to do is we're going to try and develop written protocols in terms of how we expect things to happen. One of the things that I was very happy to hear this evening is that the committees are working hard. And there's a lot of ideas and there's a lot of activities and initiatives. But we have about 9 or 10 committees. And if they're all doing programming, that means it becomes a very full packed calendar very quickly. So what I'm going to need for committees to do, for the chair, what I would like for the chairs to do is if you can actually, start getting an idea in terms of formulating when do you think your activity is going to happen. So that way we can make sure it's getting coordinated through the board. So that way we can make sure that there's full support for every one of the activities. One of the things I don't want us to do is fall into the trap of we do a lot of activities, but there's so much that nobody can possibly attend all of the stuff. Or you know what, members of one committee, because they're doing so many, can't support another committee. So I just want to make sure that we're able to put these things, plan effectively, advertise effectively as well. And if we have that upfront notice in terms of you're doing things, at least as an executive committee and as a district office, we know where we need to support you as well. That concludes my chairman's report. I will entertain questions if anyone has.
Yeah, I have a question and a comment. I just want to say thank you for bringing up Kingsbrook Jewish, because at my meeting, one of the stakeholders was present and they spoke about the same thing, that they are not closing. So the information that you gave, that's the exact information that was given. But I just have a concern as to how you, assistant district manager, can come up with a solution for continuity with projects with the committees. Because as we go and community chairs and people in the chair and co-sponsors and whatever, they leave, and whatever projects they started, whatever that they already started, when they leave, then whoever is replacing them, they don't have to start all over again. That those materials and everything that they have, they could pass it over to that person who's coming in, and there is some continuity with the project, that they don't have to start and get all that information, that they could continue with stuff. So I was just wondering as to what can you put in place to see that happens? Because people live, and whatever information that they had, they live with it. I mean, the only thing that we will have in the office is just like minutes. That's, they have, but there are other pertinent information that they have. I'm wondering if there's information that have been passed, given back to the office, or how it's been handled. So whoever is coming back now and take up that mantle, they have something to start with. They are not starting from scratch.
No, that's absolutely been a concern. And Mia, you can definitely feel free to jump in and let me know if I run off the rails or if you have some suggestions for that. It's definitely a real phenomenon where sometimes committees live with whoever the chair was, and it lives on their computer. And when they're no longer the chair, whatever they had goes with them and is still on their computer. So I think one example is, like, for example, one of the things we instituted was we don't want people using their own Zoom or their own WebEx to do stuff. By using the community board Zoom or the WebEx, it belongs to CB9. And it's a resource from now on for the rest of the board and for the community as well. So we want to expand that kind of a notion where it's like, when you have documents or emails or this correspondence, that stuff should make its way back to CB9. So that way it's there and it's available for whoever the next iteration of the committee is going to be. This is something we had attempted last year, and I definitely want to make sure that we're more forceful with it in terms of when we get towards the end of the year. So when we get around that April, May, going into June timeframe, we should do a retrospective look, I guess, in terms of the committees, talking about what are the things we did, what did we do really well, because those are the things we should repeat, and what things, maybe we can leave those alone, or maybe that's something that if there's another iteration, you should think differently about how to do this. But what I want us to do, in short, is we need to be a learning board. As we're going along, information is transferring and it's going along, and people have access and they can do better. Mia, do you have any thoughts about that as well, or?
I think that one of the most efficient things that I guess I can go ahead and highlight Real has done with education and previously in the EDC is create that Google Drive where there's ongoing access, ongoing availability for input as a committee member, and access by the board staff. I think that should become the standard for committees, just so that they don't feel like the conversation has to mute itself between committee meetings. The committee should be active as much as it needs to be. If there's a conversation to be had or a question to be answered, it could be done so in between meetings and during I guess during exchanges, whether I don't know if it's something that we need to address as a technology issue or something that we may have to provide an overview for just for our membership or go over on the committee level. But I think that creating a Google Drive, Google Docs, and working in that manner so that we're all maintaining and contributing and having access to, so that there are no gaps in communication, there's no gaps in access to information, whether you have a question or not. I think that would be the best way for the board to move forward in terms of efficiency, in terms of availability for the membership, community resident members, and for the board staff.
Okay, thank you very much.
But also highlighting another point that also when committee chairs move forward in corresponding with community partners or addressing information, the board is always copied on their correspondence, so we're not doubling back and trying to catch up.
Yeah, and that's a point well taken. I mean, I do want us to get more into the practice of making sure the board office actually has those, because those are helpful communications. And there are times where it's needed, where it's like, well, listen, what was the dialogue? What happened? Now, with that being said, the one caution thing I would throw out, sometimes the trap we don't want to fall in with the online communications is having conversations or meetings that really should be done in a public setting. So working collaboratively, yeah, a lot of sense to that, but there are some things that really should be done in that public forum in an actual meeting, because we are bound by open meetings law, and that people, the public has a right to see how we're doing our work and our deliberation. So all that to say is, I don't think we have the answers, but I think we're on the right path to getting some of these things. And I think that we'll be developing policies and procedures as we're going along to help make sure that, we kind of accomplish these goals.
Yeah, I think that's
Fred,
very important so that people understand that they can remain in motion between meetings.
just a comment to add to this, and this might be more next level consideration, but I happen to be in the process right now to adopt a board management platform for the organization that I run. And so I've done a bunch of research over the last couple of weeks of management platforms that are specifically designed to manage committees and to centralize a lot of this information. And hearing this conversation, the platform that we're about to adopt is called Boardable. It'll cost us all of $1,500 a year. And it centralizes everything. So it's a one-stop shop for board members, all the information for committees, all scheduling is central. It's the whole point is that that information doesn't get lost, and especially doesn't get lost if leadership changes. So it's a suggestion. It's certainly a next level up, and there may be some complications around the fact that it's a public a public entity, but the idea of having a central management platform could be very functional, and it's very affordable.
I just wanted to ask two questions. One was the fact that now that I guess this is to Alexander and maybe to you as well, Fred, now that most of the applications have been reviewed and there's about 130 applications that are basically going to be rejected, will you be notifying those 130 people about the fact that their application has, that, oh, thank you, we really appreciate, the fact that we've gotten your application, but unfortunately, whatever, because I have spoken to several people who have submitted applications. They have been wondering what's happening. Did they get the application? They have not received any information from the board where the application is. And I think that has a bad taste in people's mouths. I think it would be nice for the committee to make a point of reaching out to every applicant and letting them know that the application has been received. And if they're not going to be considered, then a nice, polite letter given about that. So I'm wondering if that's going to happen.
We haven't discussed it within the committee, but we can send a polite rejection letter once we've finalized our candidates. I'm trying to be as transparent about this process as possible. We had 144 resumes to review. We were doing about 25 to 30 a night. And so, we had to meet several times, I think at least 6 times to review all the resumes. So this has involved a significant investment of time by the committee members. And so we've now done an initial resume review. We've reviewed all of them. We're moving forward with our full candidates, and depending on who is still available, because we're going to start contacting folks to move forward with interviews. If they're no longer available or no longer wish to proceed, we may keep going down the line until we move forward with interviews. At that point, folks that we feel aren't competitive at all, probably the bottom, 120 or so. So we keep about 25 or so top applicants. We can more than certainly reach out and let them know the status that we won't be moving forward.
That would.
I would leave this. I'll leave this to the chair and the committee to decide. More often than not, I know with the city, the practice typically, I'm not even sure if we do anything. I think a lot of practice that I've seen is, and to your point, I think it's good that we at least recognize or at least acknowledge, yes, we received your application. Thank you for your interest in the position. Typically, though, I don't know if we say you're no longer in the running. Sorry, maybe better luck next time. But usually you can include language in there where if you're under consideration, we will reach out and contact you otherwise.
Okay.
So that way at least they don't have to hang out and just know, say, well, listen, did they lose my resume? No, we got it. But and if you're moving forward in the process, you'll be contacted. And if not, okay, But I just think it gives flexibility where, to the point that the chair made, where if you decide, okay, well, listen, maybe we want to look at number 13 through 18, you have that flexibility as well.
the other question was, I was a little unclear about the modules thing. You were talking about having one day, one evening of staff development, and then you had modules. I'm a little confused about
Oh, no, this is with regards to the board training. So in
Right,
terms
board
of
training.
each topic is a module.
that. Mhm.
So now how that's going to get organized is going to depend. I mean, I put out a laundry list of maybe about 5 or 6 of them. We're having conversations. 5 or 6 topics in the night might be too much. We might have to, we might have to cut stuff short that shouldn't be cut short. So the number may change. We may say we're only going to do 3 or 4 depending on what the topics are, what materials we have available. But that'll be done, and it'll be done, maybe probably 20, possibly 20-minute, actual training and presentation, 5 or 10 minutes for a question. Then you go on to the next topic. But that's how we're envisioning it so far.
Okay, so that means everybody would stay in that one session.
Right, they'll stay on. They'll
Okay.
stay on, and then we just go on to the next session. But nobody has to log out or anything.
Okay.
Alejandro, I'm sorry, did I cut you off, or did you have anything else you want to add with regards
No,
to that? Or
that's it. That's fine.
okay. All right then. With that, we're going to go on to the next item in the agenda. We're going to set the agenda for the general board meeting. Okay. So the proposed agenda. So we're going to have the public session. Mia, are there any presentations?
There are the 2 LPC presentations for the gates, the 2 respective gates replacements within Lefferts Manor.
Okay, 2 LPC applications.
The audio is very bad on the chair, and on Mia, the audio is really bad.
I can
Coming and going.
The first 2 items that will be on the agenda are 2 Landmarks Preservation Commission applications for homeowners who reside within the Lefferts Manor. They're both applications for gates, essentially, so that LPC wants to make sure that they remain a part of the required aesthetic within the landmarks part of our district. So it is 2 applications for LPC.
Yeah, we reviewed both the landmark and no issues. They're fine.
Okay. And Mia, you said they were public safety. They were how many SLC?
Yes. There are two new applications for El Rinconcito, Zamni, and a renewal for Silver Rice on Flatbush Avenue.
Okay, 2 LPC, 2 SLC. Just as a placeholder, I had spoken with Assemblymember Richardson. She might want some time to do a presentation. So just as a placeholder to address the board, I'm just going to leave that there, and we'll see if she's going to confirm if she's going to be there.
Okay.
All right. Okay. The presentations. Then we have public commentary. Then we have acknowledgements. Then we are going to go into the business session. Then we are going to go approval, actually, yes. Roll call, sorry. Approval of minutes. And I believe we might have a few sets we need to approve. Then we will have committee reports. And we will have, Madam Treasurer, did you wish to give a report this month? Debbie, you still online?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to give a report to the board this month?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. So I'm going to add you as an item. So treasurer's report. Chairman's report. And then for the voting items, we are going to have the LPC, SLA licenses, and the last is statement of needs. Is that correct, Mia? For the budget?
No, statement of needs doesn't even need to present itself. It can just be a brief, very brief conversation, because all of the conversation should be held during the public hearing. If you want, you can just touch base to say that it's been discussed, and that final submissions recommendation should be made by October 29th, because our final version is due to DCP October 30th.
Okay,
So we're
no
gonna
problem. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna accept submission until October 29th, close of business.
Okay, all right then. So the voting items, then after that, we have any unfinished business? And we have any new business? And then we will adjourn. Okay. All right. Are there any additions or modifications we need to make to this agenda?
I think we're good to go on.
Members of the exec, is there anything else we need to add? Okay.
No, I'm not thinking of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I said, no, I'm not thinking, don't think of anything right now.
Okay, so.
It's Warren. I think we're good.
Okay. All right, so what I will do is I will entertain a motion to adopt the recommendations of the Housing and Public Safety Committees and approve this agenda, approve the agenda for this month.
So made.
I have it moved by Warren Burke. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Francisco Leopold. All those members in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, let the record reflect the agenda was adopted unanimously by the executive committee.
Okay, thank you for a good meeting.
All right. Well, before we do that, before we jump ahead, is there any other business that we need to consider? Seeing none. Everyone, I want to thank you for a very productive meeting. The chairs, again, I cannot thank you enough for all the work you're doing. I definitely have to give a shout out to our district office team. You keep things running. I really appreciate everything you do. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, now y'all want to stay?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fran. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? I think everybody already left. The motion carries. We are now adjourned. The time is now 9:01 p.m. Everyone, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything, and we will see each other next week. And remember, 6 p.m. for the hearing.
All right.
Good night, folks.
All right.
Good night, all. Have a good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Good night, good night, Almana. Good night, Nick.
Good
Good
night.
night,
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Carter.
For real. Good night. Good night, Fred.
All right, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, Mia. Good night, Carmen.
Good night, Sister. Adios.